Fresh off of a first-round victory over the Montreal Canadiens, the Ottawa Senators are back and ready for their second-round matchup against the New York Islanders. Now, it's been an interesting season, of course. It took a long time to get through the season. Of course, you look at the majority of the moves that we made, the massive amount of free agent signings. Only Anthony Duclair sticks around. The Duclair is selected to be traded. We get Tyler Toffoli out of that. Out of nowhere, the addition of Matthew Tkachuk and then Dylan Larkin. The injury, of course, to Alexis Lafreniere. It's been a crazy, crazy season, but we still find ourselves in the second round. Now, when it comes to this team, it's an interesting way to go about it, but I think I do want to kind of put the team back as we found it. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk isn't at 100%, but I do think I want to try to put the team back together the way that we found it and see what happens from there, just in terms of how well this team can kind of get along, as we'll go with Pinto on that second line. We can keep Colin White there. That's fine by me. We'll see. Actually, we don't have a sniper on that line now. I'm missing an extra sniper. I don't know who that would have been. I guess it would have been Matthew Tkachuk. But anyway, we can leave that line combo as it is. It was an interesting first round for Darcy Kemper. He wasn't perfect at the 9-16, and of course our defense didn't think that Jonathan Asperot would slot in, but he did. Didn't think that we'd see Thomas Chabot on the third pairing, but we did. We are going to change this back around. Of course, Lajoie and Lafreniere out still for a significant amount of time. Now, as crazy of a season as it's been, and as much as I kind of hope that it's going to end sometime soon, obviously we're not hoping to see it end today. We want to continue onward and make this a season to remember for the Sens, but of course standing in our way now, the New York Islanders. And this is what they look like in 2023. Brendan Gallagher with Matthew Barzal and Josh Bailey. So Gallagher, a very interesting addition and a very expensive addition for the Islanders. Second line is Anthony Beauvillier, Brock Nelson, and Philip Deneau. So clearly there had to have been a deal with the Habs, or they just really like their free agent signings. And Deneau's cheap too. Third line of Anders Lee, Matthew Savoy, and Malachi Thorburn. This team's going to destroy us. Fourth line of Kiefer Bellows, J.G. Pajot, and Jordan Eberle. It's a very, very, very good team. Defensively, I mean, it's not exactly what you would expect. Bodie Wild with Ryan Pollock, I hear Pulock still, Pollock, whatever. Samuel Bolduc with Noah Dobson, and Michael Del Zotto with Nathan Beaulieu. Scratches of Holmstrom, Ishikoff, and Wallstrom, or Ishikoff. So no defensive scratches. Some really good forwards in there as scratches. It makes you wonder what happened to Pelech, what happened to Mayfield. The goaltender, still the same. It's Semyon Varlamov with Sorokin as the backup. So they have offense to spare, a weak defense, yet they still find, or a weaker defense than they could possibly have. Creates a very interesting matchup, though. Same offense, slightly better defense, slightly better goaltending. This series is a complete toss-up. That is the only way to put it. This series is a complete toss-up. Let's get it underway. A lot of potential changes for this lineup as we go through. We'll see how it goes down. A little bit nervous for this one, though. It would be great to win, but I can't say for sure that we're going to. First period, goal apiece. You have Thorburn and Naslund, two computer-generated players. Solid enough. Second period, we take the lead. Shane Pinto with the goal. So we head into the third. Of course, Pinto was really the reason as to why things happened the way that they did, right? So, or at least, moving Duclair, and then we get this guy, and then we get to Foley, and and then we had that crazy trade deadline. Regardless, now 5 minutes left in game one, at least in regulation. Can we hold on for the win? Darcy Kemper. Fantastic stuff. Great job there from Darcy, and we take game 1. Absolutely tremendous. What a start for us there. I was sitting here worried about potential changes we'd have to make, but if Darcy Kemper's going to play like he has been in real life during these playoffs, then we're looking pretty good. We're looking pretty good. We'll move on to game 2. I don't know if anyone will be back from injury. Gannett is back. Matthew Tkachuk will be back in the lineup. Very, very promising turn of events there. Now, in terms of who gets the boot, it's not going to be Naslund. The argument is Dustin Brown. Now, we would lose that +3 by sending down Logan Brown. But honestly, I think it's the right move. It's kind of a tough call here, though. It's actually a very tough call, but we need to get Matthew Tkachuk back in the lineup. We're going to go best lines here for the moment. By default, it actually takes Shane Pinto out, which is not going to be the case. We're going to have to completely redo these lines. We'll get Pinto back in for Dustin. I think we'll go with Logan Brown on the 4th line. I'm not too worried if I care so much about chemistry, because as it is, line chemistry is super, super finicky. But of course, we'll go ahead and probably set it up in this way. I think might still be the best way to go. Kind of a tough call here. Formanton, not as good of a center. Swap to Foley. Honestly, that works for line chemistry. Like I said, it sucks that Tkachuks don't work on the same line in terms of chemistry, but I'll take it. And honestly, I wonder if trying this is a good way to go. We don't get the +5 for Borowiecki and Brandstrom, but they're not exactly lighting the world on fire right now. I'm going to try Brandstrom with Chabot, Thompson, Bernard Docker, Asperat with Borowiecki. And of course our goaltender and Kemper will still be in. We're going to try this. Obviously, I didn't really want to change up the lines too much after winning in game 1, but the return of Matthew Tkachuk changes things just a little bit. So we go to game 2. First period, start off with a goal. Drake Batherson kicks off the scoring. Second period, okay, they outscored us there, Gallagher and Nelson, but Taylor Hall is able to get the goal that ties this one up. Of course, Hall hasn't been as big of a game changer as Ryan Pulock scores. Hasn't been as big of a game changer in this postseason as he had been in postseasons prior as Beauvillier scores, and it's not looking good for the Sens here in game 2. The return of Matthew Tkachuk not doing enough. We end up losing 4-2. And we split the first 2 games of this series. So, not the worst thing in the world, but it certainly could have gone slightly better for us. We'll jump into game 3. We lose here. We may have to consider certain changes. We'll see how this goes. First period, goal apiece, Philip Deneau and Brady Tkachuk. Second period, scoreless. Shots are pretty close as we begin the third. Anybody's game here, and this could ultimately decide how this episode goes, because if we lose, changes are necessary. If we win, odds are we keep the team the same, and where do we go from there? Brendan Gallagher gets that next goal. And we are in trouble. Extended power play time here for the Islanders, letting the clock tick down. I think that's gonna be it, right? That's going to be it? Yes, it is. Jordan Eberle. 7 seconds left. Ends it. The Islanders win 2 straight. And unfortunately, those lineup changes with Matthew Tkachuk being back in the order has kind of screwed us over here a little bit. At least if that's anything to go off of. However, a major development has just gone down. Alexis Lafreniere is healthy and good to go, I'm pretty sure, ahead of schedule. Lafreniere is back. Didn't have the best season this year when he went down to injury. His shooting percentage almost halved. But what an injection into this team this could be with Alexis Lafreniere being back. Jonathan Asperat hasn't been that bad on defense, fun fact. I think we're going to leave him in there, of course, with Lajoie down to injury. So Lyubushkin just couldn't be trusted. So that defensive depth really was a kicker for us. The question now is who gets scratched. Naslund's the easy shout, but he's actually been pretty solid. Brown, I mean, hasn't done much, but hasn't been brutal defensively. I think it's got to be Tyler Toffoli. Defensively, I mean, Toffoli, Tkachuk, Larkin, Pinto. You know, a lot of our best players have been absolutely brutal 5-on-5. If we look at this team in terms of who's putting up the best numbers, right? I want to order this right now in terms of who's been putting up the best numbers. So let's have Batherson there. Batherson's been slightly better than Brown, we'll say. Formanton, I'm going to have at the bottom of that list. Easy enough decision there, of course. Colin White. Kind of a tough call with Colin. I'd probably put him ahead of Batherson. Probably put him ahead of Batherson just for the overall difference. And then Toffoli, I mean, yikes. It's Toffoli, I mean, good offensively, but then that 5-on-5 play really drops down his value to this team. There's a very good chance he's going to be the one that's scratched here. Matthew Tkachuk has now played in 7 postseason games. And, I mean, again, it hasn't been great for him. It really hasn't been. I'd rank him ahead of Toffoli. But again, right now, we're looking at the players that have kind of the best stat lines. And Naslund has been our best player. Dylan Larkin has arguably been our worst. I would say Dylan Larkin's been our worst player. So what these lines are going to look like, who ends up taking a seat, I'm not sure. With Dylan Larkin, I can't afford to sit him because he's still... Actually, he's not under contract. Is Dylan Larkin... I forget, is Dylan Larkin an RFA? Because there's a chance that Dylan Larkin move is going to backfire big time. Now, we didn't have to pay that much for Larkin or Tkachuk. Larkin's a UFA, and he doesn't want to re-sign. There's a chance Dylan Larkin's played his last game for the Ottawa Senators. It's going to end up being a rental, from what I recall. We didn't give up too much to get Larkin, but it's looking like Dylan Larkin's not going to be coming back. And that is a pretty major loss, all things considered. And again, Shane Pinto hasn't been great defensively whatsoever. I want to continue to see what this is going to look like. So, I mean, if you have... I'd probably rate Pinto ahead of Larkin just for the fact that he's taken less penalties. That's about it. And then Taylor Hall. I'd probably still have Taylor Hall... Where would I have Taylor Hall? Probably on par with Logan Brown. So probably ahead of Logan Brown because of what Hall's capable of. Naslund has been our best forward this postseason. Josh Norris, I mean... Tough call there in terms of where I'd rank him. Probably ahead of Colin White still, but behind Naslund. And then Brady Tkachuk has, I'd say, clearly been our best player. It's not even close. So Tkachuk, Norris, Naslund isn't exactly out of the realm of possibility for being a deserving line. Again, Toffoli, Pinto, Larkin have been our best, or have been our weakest players. So you're looking at Lafreniere coming back. You're looking at Dustin Brown coming back. Potentially into the lineup. Brown wasn't that bad in the 2 games that he played. I mean, you're looking, of course, at Toffoli and Larkin being gone this season. I think we take Toffoli and Larkin out and we see what Shane Pinto can do in a lower role. It makes no sense to take out Naslund. I mean, yeah, we can go with the higher rated players and maybe the higher rated players help turn it around. But it's kind of similar to the goaltending situation where it's like, well, if they're not going to get the job done, what's the point? So there is a decent shot that Dylan Larkin is off of this team. There's a real decent shot that Dylan Larkin's off of this team. The question now, I mean, Shane Pinto is not a great fit for this 4th line. I kind of want to ease Lafreniere back into this situation. So he honestly might play on a pretty low line. I think Matthew Tkachuk's going to be down on that 3rd line. I'm not really going to worry about maximizing chemistry because it hasn't done too much for us here. But we will go ahead with Batherson, White, Hall. And then we'll have Tkachuk, Naslund, Norris. Norris will definitely be the center there. So I will try to optimize with these line fits But like I said, if someone's not getting the job done, then man, they're out. And Dylan Larkin has been a tremendous disappointment. He will likely be the one that slots back in if Dustin Brown struggles. But for the moment, we really have no choice here in terms of what we're going to do. So Brady Tkachuk works tremendously as a playmaker, but we're going to be changing him over to a sniper. It's pretty much necessary, I would say. Which means Josh Norris is now going to be the playmaker of that line. And we will have Naslund as our power forward. Works for me. So Ludwig Naslund gets a huge chance here. On that second line, I think it's fairly obvious. Taylor Hall is going to be the sniper. Batherson's going to end up being the power forward. I mean, which is fine. Batherson, honestly, has been deserving of a better role for 2 seasons now. And it is an incredible chance here for him to earn that spot. And then, yeah, Taylor Hall can just stay as he is. That third line, of course, on some occasions we'd go with 2 ways. I don't think we're going to do that. I want to stay with skill lines as best we can. And honestly, looking here, I think we're going to go with Tkachuk still as the sniper of the line. And then for center, we have Logan Brown, who will stay with at power forward. And then Alex Formanton can stay where he is as the right-wing playmaker of the line. And then that fourth line, it's going to be the grind line. We have Dustin Brown, Shane Pinto, whose role just drastically changed, and Alexis Lafreniere, whose role has drastically changed. But I'm going to ease him back into this lineup. Defensively, honestly, we're going to do the same thing. Asparot's been alright. Borowiecki's been a little bit better. And, of course, Bernard Docker, the penalty minutes are a little bit concerning. But I'll rank him ahead of Boro. Lassie Thompson, honestly, has been our worst defenseman because of that 5-on-5 play. Plus minus, just, it's been brutal. Now, again, plus minus isn't a great stat, but in this game, you don't have much to go off of in terms of defense. So I think what we're going to do again is probably go... Probably go with Bernard Docker over Brandstrom. So we'll still go with Bernard Docker and with Chabot. And I'm going to try like hell to get the proper kind of plus minus, or proper line chemistry there if I can. It's fairly obvious that Bernard Docker should be a 2-way. But it's that offensive awareness that drives him down. Doesn't mean as a defensive defenseman he can't put up points. But we'll go with Jacob Bernard Docker. We'll make him a defensive defenseman. He'll be alongside Chabot, who will be an OFD. And then here, of course, surprise, surprise, we have Borowiecki with Eric Brandstrom. These two have been tethered together for the most part. And then that third line is going to be, or that third pair is going to be probably an OFD and Thompson. Or not. I mean, Thompson certainly has OFD potential. Yeah, I'm not worried about having 2 ways, actually. So, you know what? We will go with Lassie Thompson, and we'll go with Asparot, whatever, as a defensive defenseman. So we're going to be making a lot of changes here. But I have to be completely honest. It's because I never expected that we would get Alexis Lafreniere back on this team. I didn't think we'd make it far enough for him to come back. But here we are. And as mentioned, we're going to sit here and we're going to reward the players that have been playing well. And there's no doubt Naslund deserves that opportunity to play on a higher line. I'm not just going to sit here and play someone within the... I mean, you know, rules of the series aside, like that's not a rule that we made. Unlike, say, the LA Kings series that we had earlier this year, where it's like, okay, you know, if you have a player in this role, guess what? You got to play them there. Sink or swim. If they don't work out, then hey, you made a bad bet. Yeah, we don't have that as a rule in this series. So yeah, can I play Lafreniere on the fourth line just to, in theory, ease him back into the lineup? Yeah, indeed I can. He's going to have to earn that spot on a higher line. He's not going to have as many opportunities to do it, but hey, earn your spot, just like Linus Naslund has on this team. So Asparot, you know, gets a huge opportunity here because of the injury to Lajoie. We'll see what he can do. And now again, a lot of changes coming throughout the forward lineup here. So Matthew Tkachuk is going to be changed over to a left wing. So he and Brady will both be on that left side, but obviously Matthew will be 2 lines down. Didn't think we'd see that happening. But good old Matthew Tkachuk, I feel like that doesn't look like him at all, at least from what I just saw of it. Taylor Hall, good to go. Lafreniere back in the lineup. You could argue, will this screw up his development? Maybe, maybe not. It's not as if Lafreniere was having that good of a regular season when he was playing, though. Lafreniere, you get to, you get to be a role player here. We need you for the energy. Let's see what you can do. Earn your spot. And not Linus Naslund, but Ludwig Naslund. I think we had a Linus Naslund or a Linus Naslund in a different series. Sorry, Ludwig, for getting your name wrong. I'm going to say it was your older brother, though, who I think he's not the first Naslund that we've had that's actually been decent in the franchise mode, so go figure. But Ludwig Naslund, we got a good chance there. And then Brady Tkachuk, we need to change over to a sniper. Again, I wish you could just do this from the Edit Lines menu. Be a hell of a lot easier. I don't really see why you couldn't do it, but hey, whatever. Should have the option to just edit a player straight from that or the roster move screen, but hey, it is what it is. At least we have this option to begin with. Colin White, former first-line center, gets dropped down to the third line for the sake of chemistry. Back up on the second line. Huge opportunity here for Mr. White. Now, this is, again, going to be a very interesting series because if we lose here, there is the possibility of saying, you know, how many changes do we make? What does this team look like next year? You know, if we lose Dylan Larkin, and among other changes, you know, Tyler Toffoli's probably going to be gone. What if we decide that getting Matthew Tkachuk was a horrible idea? You know, you look too, it's like Abramoff and all the other young forwards that we gave an opportunity to that didn't work. What is the depth of our team really looking like, and how effective is it going to be? There are a lot of questions surrounding this team right now. The final 2 changes here, Josh Norris to a playmaker and Drake Batherson. He's going to get a huge chance. Speaking of players that didn't make it, Drake Batherson very much has made it. He's been fantastic at times. You know, putting up points despite being on the 4th line. Not an easy thing to do, but proof that it can be done. So there is no excuse for one Alexis Lafreniere. Or Shane Pinto, for that matter. So Drake Batherson, you get to be that left-wing power forward, buddy. And we're going to see what you can do. And we're going to get this series back underway after going best lines and just making sure that, you know, those lower-level lines, or like 4-on-4 lines, power play, penalty kill, stuff like that, that those are on point. So we salvaged something in the way of chemistry while also rewarding our top players, so no shame in that. Logan Brown, though, is about to benefit quite well from the fact that he was the healthy scratch. I'm going to need to rework that really quickly. So looking, we have White, Pinto, of course, Norris. So what we'll do is change out Norris for Brown, and then Larkin for Norris. And that left-hand side is Tkachuk, Batherson, Tkachuk, Brown. Right-hand side is, we'll change out Tyler Toffoli and get Alex Formanton back in there. But we have Lafreniere, Hall, Naslund. Perfect. Defense is JBD and Chabot, Borowiecki, Brandstrom. We have a couple beautiful +5s there. Can this team get it done? That is the question. We're down 2-1 in this series. Dylan Larkin, Tyler Toffoli out of this lineup in terms of the overalls and stuff like that for what we're dealing with here. We still have the edge in offense. We have the edge in defense. But will it mean anything as we head to Game 4? A very, very important game for the sake of this team and the future of this franchise. First period, 1-0 Islanders. Thorburn on the power play. He's been a hassle. Second period, they score another one. Brendan Gallagher also on the power play. And right now, barring a good third period comeback, we are staring down the barrel. There we go, Alex Formanton. We're staring down the barrel of a 3-1 deficit. And I don't know if we'll be able to overcome that. And it really does, you know, set the stage for, okay, is the coach going? What players are staying? if we fall short in this series. Still have time to tie this game up. Will we do it? No, we won't. A 2-1 win for the Islanders in Game 4. And we are on the verge of being bounced from the postseason. We are... Are we the only team facing this deficit? Yes, we are. Every other series is tied at 2 apiece. 3 straight losses. Max Lajoie will be back here for this next game, potentially, as we will send down Jonas Korpisalo just to make room, because Lajoie is not at 100%, so he will not be in the picture for Game 5. Taking a look here. I mean, yeah, Lafreniere didn't do much. He didn't get a ton of ice time. Let's do it. It comes down to this. That's all we can say. Can this team scratch and claw their way and find a way to put up some goals? Or are they going to be bounced? First period, scoreless. Second period, not scoreless. We're down 1-0. Matthew Savoy on the power play. That Islanders, real-life kind of stingy defensive style seems to translate well in this video game, too, because we cannot score goals right now. Still down 1-0. Haven't scored in forever. That's probably it. The New York Islanders are about to bounce the Ottawa Senators in 5 games. It's done. A 3-0 shutout victory. Semyon Varlamov, he rules the day. And we are out in round 2. As mentioned, it sets the stage for a very interesting offseason. Kemper still has another year. Defensively, I mean, Borowiecki doesn't want to come back. Lajoie doesn't want to come back, so we're going to lose both of them. As frustrating as that is. But then forward-wise, Lafreniere needs to be signed. Dylan Larkin's probably leaving. Tyler Toffoli is definitely leaving. You got Formanton and Batherson to sign. That's not a big deal. Dustin Brown's probably gone, too, at his age. There are going to be some pretty big changes here. And the big decision we have to make is, do we capitalize on Matthew Tkachuk's value? The fact we got him on retained salary. I mean, he wasn't that bad, but he wasn't great. Just 1 goal. And if we are going to keep him, we have to find a coach who fits this team a little bit better for him. But I don't think we're going to find a coach because of the differences in player preference that makes it so that we can actually run the Tkachuks on the same line. It's just not going to happen. Taylor Hall as well. 1 goal. Is now the time to cash out on Taylor Hall. 18 goals in the prior 2 postseason runs. 1 in 11 games. And you see those numbers dropping. I mean, or at least they dropped this year. He still hit 40 goals. Now, there's a lot to decide. What happens to Matthew Tkachuk? What happens to Taylor Hall? Colin White, is now the right time to cash out on him? Unfortunately, with our current coach, he doesn't really fit. He fits on the third line all right, but we're never going to get major boost there. Like I said, we have no choice. Dylan Larkin ended up being a rental. Logan Brown, not a perfect fit for this team either. There's a lot of decisions to make. And if you want certain players to stick around, I think it's going to take a coaching change. But even then, it's not so much a guarantee of that working. I mean, we have an A-plus head coach. It's just, is he the right coach for the job? I don't know. And again, the rules of this series, I'm only allowed to hire someone who wants to be a head coach. So if we look who's out there right now, more people may be available. But I'm only allowed to go to head coach and say, all right, Platt or Bolesky. And in terms of how well they fit, 59 and a 60, not much better from what I could tell. So as I mentioned, a lot of interesting scenarios here for this Senators team, where I can't help but think that a window that seemed to open a little bit sooner than we would have expected has already perhaps closed. And with some of the losses that we've taken on certain prospects leaving the team, through certain trades or just not being able to cut it, I can't help but think that window might already be closed. and that we might be due for a little mini rebuild retooling here. Let me know what you think in the comments. You know the deal. As always, support the video, support the channel, check out everything in the description. And of course, if you're on Patreon, I thank you very much. There's a video out there today as well. And of course, there's also a pinned post where you guys can help me to decide what the next videos will be on this channel. So check that out if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next one. Till then, have a good one. Take it easy. And God damn it, help me make these choices.